Good morning, you wonderful people. I know nobody's in here yet, but I just jumped on. Thought I'd say good morning to everybody while I have my coffee and rant about the cold weather and watch the news. When people do chime in, tell me if it's cold in your area. Because, man, I was used to the warm weather. Well, anyway, let's see what we can find. Nobody's expecting me to pop on, so that's kind of the thing. Let's see. Morning news. Go ahead. Come on, back over here. All right, what's this? Yep, we're looking for headlines. We'll go NBC first.
Producers, this plugin helps you finish your tracks way faster. Check this out. I'm gonna
God,
start
I
with
hate
this loop
commercials,
that I made.
especially first thing in the morning.
We begin this Friday with the latest out of the Middle East. President Trump announced that leaders from Israel and Lebanon have agreed to a 10-day ceasefire. This follows weeks of intense fighting between Israel and the Iranian-backed militant group Hezbollah.
It's 3 days ago. I'm sorry. We're looking for morning news. And you're not working when I want to. All right, hold on. Da 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 da. I'm serious though. It's been cold past 2 days now. Um, mm. Let's
Listen to this. As many as 11 scientists working on space and nuclear power research have now either died or mysteriously disappeared just since 2022, and lawmakers are now demanding answers. House Oversight Committee Chair James Comer sending letters to federal agencies.
Yeah, this is what we were talking about last night, the night before.
Including the Department of War, Department of Energy, and NASA. Meantime, FBI Director Kash Patel says if there are any signs of nefarious...
Good morning, chat. I see you sneaking in there. Want to say hi and good morning. I'm having my coffee, and I thought I'd jump on real quick and see what was going on in the world before I got busy and started working stuff.
Conduct, his team is ready to take action.
Per our conversations with the White House and the President, the FBI is going to be spearheading the effort collectively with our partners at the Department of Energy and the Department of War. These missing and killed scientists and former professional members of the Department of Energy vary in wide range. And we're working most importantly with our state and local partners who have the jurisdiction on each of these cases, whether they be a homicide or a missing persons case.
Former Assistant FBI Director Chris Sweckert joins me now. Chris, what do you think? Coincidence or something more sinister at play here?
Hey, good morning, Todd. I think it's a mixture of both. I mean, this list keeps growing. It started with General William McCaslin and then Monica Reza, who did indeed work together on rocket propulsion and other and metal technology and some things that are very sensitive technologies for this country. And then it expanded. I think it's a creation of the media, social media, and I think it's captured people's imagination. What I will say is, especially with General McCaslin and Monica Reza, a scientist that worked at the propulsion lab, that they are targets of espionage. And that's just a fact. They work on technologies that are sensitive to this country, that China, Russia, and other hostile foreign intelligence services would want to get their hands on or disrupt. Now, if you build out from there, and so that, if anything nefarious is going on here, it's not our own government or people being abducted by aliens. This is just modern day espionage, if there's anything nefarious happening at all. Now, there are other suspicious circumstances with some of the other scientists. One was the MIT professor that was killed by the Brown University shooter. You can take that one out. Another one was a carjacking and burglary. You can take that one out, and the list gets a little bit shorter. But having said that, the common denominator is that they were all working on technologies that are the targets of espionage, and it is indeed the job of the FBI to stop that from happening, to conduct counterintelligence work in this area, and work these cases. And I'm surprised that they got started so late on this.
Interesting. Quickly, I want to go back to the MIT professor who was killed. You are confident that that one can be removed from this list, and that this list that includes him is a little bit more of a creation by the media as opposed to really a nice organized pile of the individuals who are no longer with us?
Yeah, I am confident. I mean, look, you can never rule anything out, but that clearly that was a part of the Brown University mass shooting. There was a prior relationship there. There's another one where there was a carjacking and a burglary very early in the morning. So some of them you can just take out completely, but others, I'm just, when you understand what other countries are doing and the lengths that they go to try to get their hands on our sensitive technologies, especially rocket propulsion, metals, nuclear research, and that sort of thing. It's a daily, it's something that happens, a cat and mouse game that goes on day in and day out. It's espionage activities directed at our scientists, and we do the same going at other scientists in other countries.
It does call into question whether we're protecting those individuals enough. I think not, if they're dying. Meantime, an Iranian national accused of trafficking weapons on behalf of the regime is due in court today after federal officials arrested her at LAX. First Assistant U.S. Attorney Bill Asaeli writing on X, quote, Shamim Mafi, 44 of Woodland Hills, California, was arrested at LAX for trafficking arms on behalf of the government of Iran. Mafi is an Iranian national who became a lawful permanent resident
Ooh, look at all that
of the United
money.
States back in 2016. How have so many people, Chris, with ties to the Iranian government, one, been allowed just to live in our country, and in this case, been allowed to live in our country while working for the Iranian government?
Yeah, I mean, we had 4 years of open borders, probably more than that under other administrations. And, the Iranians have been doing this for a long, long time. I've been personally associated with cases where the Iranians were violating sanctions, operating in the United States, trying to get their hands on sources of income, technology, and that sort of thing. I mean, they were strapped for cash, so they were conducting all kinds of criminal activities here in the United States and in other places in Eastern Europe, and just raising money through various criminal schemes. So yeah, this is the type of thing that they blend in with that big surge of illegal immigrants that came in during the Biden administration, and it made it 10 times more difficult to find these people and understand what they're doing in the United States.
I think in light of what you just said, I would expect a few more arrests coming in the days, weeks, and months ahead. Chris Swecker, thanks for your insight on both of these topics. Appreciate it.
Well, isn't that interesting? Huh. They're talking about her again. Sure, why not? Oh, I hate commercials first thing in the morning. I don't know what you got.
Couldn't get more information and action, things changing. Yesterday was busy, Tommy. Today's even busier. Couple of things that sparked me right away. Number one, we've now, it was called VBSS, Visit, Board, Search, and Seized a ship, an Iranian ship. So that's kinetic. The Marines that did that trained for it. They came probably off the MEU. And so that's exciting for me as a Marine to know that, hey, we've used that. But the other thing is, we're hearing conflicting reports on whether or not J.D. Vance is actually going to Pakistan. So I've read all day today that he was not going, and now the reporting is that he is, or that he's leading the talks, maybe not from Pakistan, we're not sure. It seems like the Trump administration is working as if these talks are working and there's a deal to be made, but all the other things happening seem to go in the other direction.
Well, I think that's how President Trump operates, right? He would love to make a deal. He says it over and over again. I would like to make a deal. I would like to talk. But also, if you do things, which he said today in his Truth Social, not nice or something to that effect, he's going to retaliate. He certainly is. And I think he's made that point over and over and over again. And the fact that you've got Democrats on air crying and whining about the way that he negotiates or the way that he...
How much is gas right now? I mean, let's see. How much is gas? It's $4.04 a gallon here. California is $5.80. Okay, so it's still not as bad as it could be. I don't know.
Puts things on Truth Social. This is how this president makes deals. And so far, they seem to work. Now, I hope that we have more talks in Pakistan. I hope we get a resolution here. But this president has made it pretty clear. This is going to hurt for Iran, and it has to. Because if it doesn't, they are never going to come to the table, and they are never going to surrender. So here we are.
Yeah, I guess Democrats will say things are escalating. Republicans might say things are going according to the Trump doctrine, really. There's a really good book that I like. It's called On Killing. It's by Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman. And in there, he points out something that I love to bring on air, which is we always talk fight or flight when people get in conflicts. But the other two options for human and interspecies conflict are posture and submission. And he goes in depth about what posturing is. Like animals in the wild do it. A cobra will flare the sides of its head out. And it seems like President Trump really understands that he has to speak Iran's language in order to get Iran to submit, perhaps.
And it's not just the language, it's action as well. Sometimes you escalate to de-escalate because if you don't escalate, you're seen as weak and the thing can drag on even longer. I'm glad to see this action, by the way, in the Strait with our guys boarding this vessel, not just because it's cool and tactically it was a huge success. I know that you're thrilled for your colleagues. I just like to see actual enforcement, where it's not just theoretically we've got a blockade, everyone was obeying up to this point. Here was finally a ship that challenged the blockade, and we said, okay, goodbye engine room, hello U.S. Marines. Let this be a warning to others. We are actually serious about enforcing this, which sends the right message to the regime. One thing that I am at least curious about, I'm not going to get too critical of it, but I'm not convinced fully that it's a good idea to send our vice president back to that theater to have negotiations that the other side might not even want to have. Because their posturing right now is, well, we're not sure because the U.S. is so irresponsible and, incoherent, right? All the words that they use there, contradictory. I'm not sure we should be giving them the prestige of our vice president to lead a delegation to show up for talks that may or may not happen. We are serious about talks to end this thing when they're actually serious about putting an end to their nuclear program, regional terrorism, etc. If they're not even fully serious about showing up, I wonder if it makes sense to send our top-level people there, because then it seems like we're a little thirsty for a conversation. They should be the ones almost groveling for a conversation.
Well, Nita, Guy brings into a point, kind of the big problem.
Yeah, they're losing me. This is like rants back and forth.
You're one sentence away from law.
Hold on a minute. There's a cat that broke in. I got to let him out.
Hey, I'm Joe Khalil here with Reality Check for Ross Coulthart. We just sat down with Congressman Tim Burchett for an extended interview on his recent briefing that he got, which he came out of with a sort of different perspective and said, look, if the country were able to see and hear what he saw and what he heard, it would be a paradigm shift. You'll see in the interview here that we let him talk. I asked a question, and he really just took it and would run with it. But it was a lot of good insight, a little bit of frustration about why there's not progress, more so than there already has been, but a lot of interesting insight from a guy who has now been in the rooms and on the front lines of disclosure. Here is that interview. Congressman, we have heard a lot about this briefing that you got. You've been talking a lot about it, not in detail of what you heard.
Sure.
But can you lay out, leaving that briefing, it seems like you were a bit of a changed man after that. Talk to me about what the feeling was after.
I've had multiple briefings, and I guess, you know, I get a lot of doubters, and people make fun of me, even members of Congress, which is kind of ironic because there's always the guy in the crowd that makes a joke about it after somebody else does, and they come up to me and they say, "Man, I need to tell you something. You know, I'm in the military, or I saw something, or got a lot of people interested in this issue." But and I've had so many of these briefings now. I even had one since the one that you're describing. I had that was a member of our leadership arranged, which tells you the serious nature of this thing. Yeah. And, you know, I just think people need to know what we've seen and what these pilots are seeing. And Luna, for instance, we requested all those videos, and she is, you know, gave kind of a deadline when she'd like to have them by. And she calls over there, and they say, "Well, we don't know anything about the letter," kind of stuff. The same old stuff you and I've run into for years on this issue. And America's just ready. I think they would they'd be alarmed about what it is, and I think mostly they'd be alarmed at why the government won't allow it out. Yeah. And what's at the base of it, and you know, all the theories aside, whether you think it's extraterrestrial, if it's something from this earth, you know, if it's the Russians or the Chinese or the Americans, which I don't think it is, and then maybe allow some of the pilots to talk and tell exactly what they've seen. And the last briefing I had, some pretty incredible photos, and I think that you should have the right to see those. Yeah. And the critics are going to blast it. You know, they're going to say it's AI, it's whatever. But you got to go back and ask yourself, why would some of the best pilots in the world, why would they risk their credibility to come out with this? Because anytime they make a sighting, a lot of times they'd have to get a psych evaluation and get all this stuff, and even if it's something they saw on radar. But now we've got officers in the Navy seeing these very, very large objects on sonar traveling at a very high rate of speed, something that's exponentially faster than anything we can accomplish. You got to realize that you have an object out there in the ocean that hovers, above the ocean in the air, that hovers for, could be hours on end. We have nothing with that capability. You have to you'd run out of fuel. And then when they take off, they just, you know, maybe straight up, and the power to do that is something, the energy it'd take to fuel Los Angeles. I mean, it is that incredible. And I just don't see any reason why our government should be hiding it. And I don't like going into a meeting and an unelected bureaucrat tells us that the president is on a need-to-know basis. To me, that should be very telling to America that there's a lot more going on with this behind the scenes than we're aware.
And you've heard that directly?
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. And you know, and I know Matt Gaetz spoke a couple weeks ago about a briefing he had on a breeding thing between, you know, alien life. But he didn't say he'd seen it. He didn't say it was fact. He just said that it was discussed with him by a member of the military. And have I heard those things? Oh, sure, I've heard those before. But I haven't seen anything. And I have my own beliefs about it, but about all the what's going on.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I'm right or wrong. I just think it's time for America to get this stuff, get this information.
What can you share about that briefing that, really made you come out and say people would be shocked to see this? Can you tell us about,
it was, I can tell you that just because everything I asked about, because there was someone in there in the meeting I felt like that was there to disrupt, to maybe say that this person was not telling the truth. And again, this person had no reason to lie to us. It was in the skiff, of course, so I'm very limited on anything I can really say about it. But they said I gave certain incidences that had occurred and or that I'd heard occur, and they could name dates, people, places, and to me it was very convincing. And I knew some of it, and they filled in the gaps. And these were things that there was no hesitation whatsoever. There was no, it wasn't anything like that. It was just straightforward. And then when this person asked these questions, I felt like they were to disrupt and contradict what they were saying. And it went just a complete 180. Yeah. And that's what you're going to have, because you're going to have members of Congress who want to, for whatever reason, they don't want the truth, or they know it, and there's a certain arrogance up here too. You got to admit that. I mean, there's a complete arrogance. And again, I don't know if it's about little green men or flying saucers. I just know we're spending tens of millions of dollars on something. I think we should know what the heck we're spending that money on. And when they bring it all out, just let people make up their own minds. Because there's going to be a group that's going to say, and look, I'm a born-again Christian. I'm from the forgiven end of that spectrum. But I'm not worried about the demonic element. I hear people say that. But there's no reason for demons to be doing this. It's such a small little area. I mean, they could come up here to Congress as easy as maybe they already have. I don't know. But and do I think it's the Chinese or the Russians? And I go back over this. If it was the Russians, they wouldn't be bogged down in Ukraine. If it's the Chinese, they'd own us. Some would argue, as I've stated, they own us already, but more so. And would it be the Americans? Why in the world would we risk?
I got UPA videos from the AARO. We're going to watch here in a little bit. So,
a $500 million high-tech aircraft, or a fleet of aircraft, or a battleship or something, to be around these things, and a pilot losing their life, when we just saw, rightfully so, the president spent millions of dollars to rescue a pilot. Yeah. We did not, and there's no telling what that cost, but that's a signal to the rest of the world and to our people that we value life. So there's no reason for us to be doing that. Yeah. And I won't go too far into it, but I've talked to folks that are at the highest levels, and they will tell you that they've asked the one higher up level in the whole security paradigm, I guess, and they've indicated that it is definitely not them.
So that sort of transitions me well to my next question, which is that we've heard rumors about President Trump potentially preparing for some level of disclosure about.
And I believe that. I had that very conversation with him.
So where is he on that? Is he ready to do that? And a follow-up on that before you get to it is, let's say he makes some kind of statement during the war with Iran. Do you think that sort of undermines people might say, well, he's trying to distract.
They're always going to say he's distracting. This is just a distraction. And the best day to release this stuff was yesterday. And the second best day to release it is right now.
So is he going to do that?
I hope so. I think he's not beholden to that community.
Yeah.
And
but you've talked to him about it. What's your feeling on whether he's ready?
Well, I don't generally publicly discuss too much what I discussed with the president about, because that could end up, I would not talk, he wouldn't talk to me as freely as he does when we talk, but we talked 14 minutes. I was looking at my watch and I was like, holy cow, it's 14 minutes. It was about a lot of things, but I told him, I said, it's like layers of the onion, Mr. President. I said, you just keep peeling it back. Yeah, you put the 1 and 2 people in there, but these lifetime career people are in there, and for whatever reason, they're not releasing anything. And also, I feel like the material or whatever it's out there that we have, we don't really have it anymore because they farmed it out to these corporations, and these corporations are not FOIA-able. Freedom of Information Act is for the people back home. It's when I can say, hey, FBI, release this stuff. I want to see this stuff. And under FOIA, allegedly, they're supposed to release it. But say a Ford Motor Company had it, they wouldn't have to release it. And I feel like that's what's happened to a lot of it. And a lot of the stuff we've seen is that I think that we have is probably the people that are dissecting it or whatever they're doing with it probably don't realize exactly what it is or where it came from. They might have an idea, but people with the direct knowledge are mostly gone. So it's kind of like during at Oak Ridge during the Second World War. I've met people. I met this one guy I met one time. I was out knocking on doors, and he was of my parents' age, and I asked him what branch he was in because he was putting his American flag out. And he said, well, I wasn't in the war. I said, okay. And he was kind of sheepish about it. And he said, well, I worked at Oak Ridge. And I was like, if my dad were here, he'd hug you, because Daddy was on Okinawa when they dropped the bomb. They thought they were going to invade Japan. They were getting ready to, he's 1st Marine Division. They were going to be in the fight. I said, my daddy was here, he'd hug your neck. My mama would probably give you a kiss on the cheek. But he said that, he just kind of said this thing, and it always stuck in my mind. He said, funny thing, he said, my wife worked there too, and I never knew what she did, and she never knew what I did till after the war. I mean, because people honored that back then. It's not everything's a book deal or a clickbait or something, and it's compartmentalized, and
that makes it harder.
It makes it very hard. And then when those people die, direct knowledge goes. I mean, Roswell. Everybody talks about Roswell, and there's a couple other incidents that occurred, but it doesn't help when you go into a meeting, one of these secure meetings with a bureaucrat who's kind of a smart aleck, political appointee, and you have the career people that are usually their military officers, and you ask about a specific incident, and the direct quote to me was, we do not have data points on that, Congressman. And it was something that was a pretty documented case that had occurred, and there's a couple of them actually we talked about, and they talk, and they bring in this smart aleck thinking he's uncovered everything, that we're just a bunch of idiots. I mean, he showed a bunch of, like one was a birthday balloon, the metallic ones that have some kind of metal in them or whatever, and then, of course, they look like what you can see is a flying saucer, and somebody takes a picture of it outside the window of a 747 as they're flying by, and it looks like it's going, but it's really just stationary. And he said, well, and they slow it down and do all this stuff, and you actually see a cartoon character on this balloon. Obviously, this is, and nobody's even talking about that. I mean, that stuff's just, even the folks, the so-called UFO community, they just dismiss those kind of things because they
actively trying to disprove some of the
stories. And I felt, and his arrogant, smart aleck nature was not very beneficial. It was a complete waste of time. And I have noticed when I walk into some of these meetings, the attitude changes. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. I want to just sort of process what you think it would be like if the president decided to release images or videos that have been classified, or goes and says, there are these technologies and we believe they very well may be NHI, non-human intelligence.
Every time we ask for something specific, the military or the war pimps at the Pentagon, the intelligentsia, as I call
War
them.
pimps. That's a new word now. We're going to start using war pimps.
If you remember, I had the bill a few years back.
Yeah.
It was 2 pages long to release it, release everything.
I like this guy. I do.
The Democrat Schumer, actually, in the Senate, everybody thought, oh, Schumer's on board with us. And he wanted to release, his bill is 60 pages. And it created some structure similar to the Kennedy files. Kennedy was shot over 60 years ago, and they still won't release everything.
That's the problem with our bills, though. I mean, every country, they lop like 60, 70, 80, 100 pages into this mess of a bill to get like one point across. And they try to put everything else in there, and nobody wants to vote on it. So, I mean, that's the tactic. You know, either everyone's for it or they pass a whole bunch of junk. And that needs to stop. You know, if anything Congress needs to do, they need to start cutting the bills down and making every single person in Congress go over them. I have always said that, and I will always say that. The bills are too big. The bills are too long. Quit hiding stuff in the bills.
On that. You know, and that's what they wanted to create, and everybody was cheering, oh, Schumer's on our side. No, he's not. If he was on our side, he would have done this years ago. The push is coming from people that haven't been here very long. Yeah. And some of our leadership now, after they've seen some things, they want to know.
But I want to get back to, like, you mentioned you think people are ready to hear this and make their own judgments and see what you've seen. I'm just wondering, like, I'm thinking back to the most historic moments in my life, like 9/11 comes to mind. I feel like this would be.
Does anybody wonder what he's drinking? I mean, I'm seriously wondering what he's drinking. We know there's ice in it. We can hear it rattling around the cup. I don't know. I just wonder what he's drinking. I'm sorry. You know, I mean, my exposure with politicians and Congress and things like that, I know they like to sippy a little bit during the day.
Be a moment like that. The president comes out and says, look what
comes on the news, said this is what it is, we don't know what it is.
Yeah, so
but the military industrial war complex, whatever you want to call it, is going to hide behind national security every dadgum time. They're going to claim that, and that's part of the problem. That's why we've got a president in the White House, I think, that gets it and is sick of it. And
I mean, does he though?
Maybe
I don't know.
You know, it's not arrogant enough to believe that he's the end all.
Yeah. Robert heard something from some sources about Arrow reaching out to other agencies. We don't know exactly what this is about.
Yeah. And I have a lot of fear because of that. I don't like Arrow.
What do you know about, what can you say about their reaching out? It seems like there's some kind of coordination about.
They want to be the ones that coordinate it. And in my opinion, they've been the problem in the past because their guy has attacked me, their former.
Yeah.
And just.
Now, here in a moment after this, we're going over to Arrow and we're going to check out, they have, well, they're not so new. They're this year and late last year, a bunch of videos they dropped. Now, you've probably seen some of this stuff floating around online, but I do want to look at them. I want to look at them straight from Arrow and see if any of this stuff's been doctored, you know, from what you see on the internet. So anyway, let's finish this thing.
Said some things that were, if he actually said it, I didn't hear it, but if he said it, they're just untrue. And that's part of the problem, too, within this so-called UFO community. There's a lot of fighting, and everybody wants to, and I get it. Somebody's selling T-shirts and baseball caps, and they got a book tour, and they want to do a movie and all this stuff, and I think there's plenty for everybody. I'm not worried about all that. I'm not caught up in all that. I just want to get the truth out. I think transparency is something I've been a big part of for a long time.
Okay. I just continue to wonder about if it's not the president coming out, Do you see any authoritative figure that could come out with a level of credibility that
No.
would make Americans say, you know,
Unless somebody walks out of one of those labs with something and releases it before they disappear or commit suicide by shooting themselves in the back of the head 12 times, I don't think it's going to happen.
okay. And last one for you.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Why hasn't anyone, okay, everyone's saying, okay, we've seen this stuff. We have government officials and people in the military and regular scientists and stuff say, well, we've seen stuff. We've, and here's some pictures and they always look grainy and stuff. And I mean, surely you guys are scientists. You should have, like expensive cameras and things and cell phones. That being said, that seems to be the case when it comes to any of this. Bigfoot, UFOs, cryptids, anything. Everyone takes horrible pictures, and I really think we should maybe start a class on how people on how to use a camera. That being said, I'm curious. I'm wondering why, if everyone wants to talk about this stuff, if everyone wants to go on record and say this stuff, why haven't you like scooped up and brought an alien out? I mean, really. I mean, you can bring part of one. You can bring you can bring one out, and you can throw it on YouTube, or you can throw it on Twitch, or you can throw it on something. I mean, if a scientist were to do something like that, or heck, if the UFOs are flyable, and there is a crazy scientist, and he knows how to fly it, he jumps in the thing and flies it over the, a big news event. I mean, there are ways to expose all of this, which makes me think it's all bullshit. I'm sorry. I just think it's some big psyop thing, and we're going to keep on hearing about it for the next few years to come, which is sad. It is.
What do we know, if anything, about these 10 scientists?
It's actually more than that, actually, if you go back a little farther. But we know that they were in our aeronautical defense industry, or complex, just all around the spectrum on that. And it's
with clearance, many of them
high level clearance. And you figure 10 of them, that we'll just say the 10. If there were 10 chefs across this country disappeared or died mysteriously, people would start questioning what the heck. There are 10 used car salesmen, dealerships, 10 preachers, 10 whatever, 10 masseuses. I don't care. I think America would probably take notice. And I think they finally are taking notice, because this all fits in. And I know family members are going to say, well, they got nothing to do with the UFO, but generally they don't talk. They keep it. Most of those guys and gals are so locked down, they keep their mouth shut.
That is true, though. That is
their
true.
nuclear secrets that they have would have already leaked out as well.
And maybe, futile effort, but is Congress looking at that at all? I haven't seen any.
Some of them are, but
investigative.
Somebody. It's always just us on the fringe that are doing it, and there's a few of us that are involved. And I'd say there's about, I don't know, maybe 10 of us that are watching this thing pretty close and haven't peeled off yet. Because some of those people were, oddly enough, were people that I'd encouraged to come to meetings, because I wanted people that were objective and maybe didn't believe
Some
in
of the
any of
scientists,
it.
you mean?
No. Some of the members of Congress.
Oh, gotcha.
And now some of them are some of the. I mean, they're the biggest fans of this thing that I've seen, actually, because they came from nothing, and then they see these things, and they can be skeptical of some of it. Some of it is questionable. But we've had so many obstacles on this thing. When Luna and Matt Gaetz and I went down to Florida.
Show us the aliens, Tim. Show us the aliens.
At Eglin, they turned us away. We were told we were going to see. There were some pilots that wanted to talk to us, and they showed it. They briefed us on some stuff that was pretty incredible, that had nothing to do with this subject. And then, and Matt told them, said, we're going to subpoena you all. And I mentioned to him, I said, here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell us the answer is 1.75 and the real answer is 1.74, and you're going to be held in contempt. I said, you're going to mess something up and you're going to get in some serious trouble here. I said, I would, because Matt's pretty tough orator. He's a very tough attorney, and he got on the phone, and whoever Big Air Force is, because they came back in about an hour, and they took us upstairs and gave us a nice fruit tray at taxpayers' expense, and then they brought the pilots in, and those are the kind of things I wished America could listen to and talk to, because it was very interesting. And I mean, that just sort of, that kind of lit the fuse for a lot of members when that deal went down.
All right, I will leave it here. Is there anything else that you want to share that we didn't talk about now?
Yeah, I would just say I'm as frustrated as America is. You know, I see people say, I wish Burchett would shut up about this, but you all ask me about it. I don't set up the interviews. I'm glad to talk about it. I just, I'm very frustrated with it too. I don't know that we'll ever get to the bottom of it unless Trump does it, or unless one of these scientists walks out of one of these private labs and says, what's going on? So I would hope, and people, and let me clarify something too. People say, you need to go to Area 51, you know, to Wright-Patterson, you need to go here or there. You know, as soon as we announce we're going to go there, I don't think we're going to find, I think we'll probably find an empty warehouse. Yeah. It's going to take the President of the United States to step up and say, this has gone on long enough. We've got to get to the bottom of this.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate the time. Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming.
Sorry, I had to step out a minute. Yeah, but, you know, I mean, I kind of feel like, you know, where they keep covering this stuff up, they keep talking about it. I feel like we, as a public, are in an abusive relationship with the government, and we're trying to cover it up each time. We're trying to make excuses for them, because by now, well, after 50, 75 years, I mean, we shouldn't see something. We should have something for our efforts. I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, yeah, we'll cover William later on. Probably not today, but at some point. This is like, there's just so much to unpack and talk about. We're going to head over to Arrow and try to deal with that this morning. We're going. All right, we're going to start with the January 6th one. And this is a unresolved UAP report from Europe. Arrow shows some sucky videos. They do. That could be a missile. I mean, yeah, right there. They can't explain what that is. It's moving back and forth. And what is this? What, some kind of tanker, maybe? I'm not sure, but I mean, there seems to be like trails around it, though. I'm not sure. Anyway, it says the United States European Command submitted a report of unidentified anonymous phenomenon on all the main Arrow. Consists of 20 seconds video footage of an infrared sensor. Okay, that shows heat coming off of it. Prevent characters, behaviors unremarkable and do not warrant further analysis. And it says it's public domain. All right, let's see what the next one looks like. And this one is footage depicts contrast infrared. It's always infrared, it seems like. All right, where are you? I want to see big ones. All right, it's this right here. Yeah, see the tail? What's this right here? There's another thing. What's this? What's this? Come on, man. Our cameras are better than this. Yeah. I don't know. There's something to that one for sure. That one's moving and zigzagging, doing doing all kinds of stuff. I don't know. Could that be something on the camera though? Those patterns were interesting. Okay, I think that's it. That's all of that one. Yeah, I don't know that one. I have questions about. Come on, Arrow, you can do better than this. We've seen better stuff online. All right, here's this one. That's all it gives. Right there. It always seems like they're in the ocean, around the ocean. I mean, it's a good test bed for equipment. And that one was the victim of a physical object. The object's more picture. No. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, 13 seconds. Come on, we need more than this. We need to really analyze these things, and I know you got more. Look at this one. Ooh, wait a minute. I wonder if this one is similar. This has to be similar to the other one. Like, this looks like the same vessel. Okay, well, it's, kind of chilling out. And then it goes right there. Looks like it went over the top. For a moment, I thought it went in it. Yeah. That's not that big. That is not that big. Probably, well, it's probably about the size of a, like one of those physical therapy balls, I would say. It's definitely not that big. It's hollow and ass, though, that's for sure. Yeah, they say the same old stuff. You know, I kind of wonder if Arrow wasn't just kind of like put up so they can let people speculate and try to come up with ideas to, you know, for the cover up. I mean, that would make sense. I mean, it's kind of smart. They did something like that, and they're kind of smart. And we can speculate, oh, that's a bird. That's a, you know, all kinds of things. And I mean, most people will. You know, there's a lot of people that don't believe in, you know, this type of thing, and they're going to watch this and they're going to try to debunk it. And there's a lot of armchair people that who you know think they have knowledge that others don't. That's a sun glare here. That thing's flying around. Maybe moon glare. I don't know. Yeah, moon glare, because there's stars and stuff. It looks like it's fluttering. Yeah, look at it. It looks like it's fluttering or flying. I think that's a bird. That's got to be a bird. Yep. Yep. I believe that's a bird, y'all. Or maybe a big ass monster butterfly. Butterflies are scary. They are. Yeah, that's a bird. That's a bird. For sure, that's a bird. Yeah, I want the bird. Unresolved. Yeah, see, they give us the stuff. I think they know what it is, and they kind of like mess with it. This one actually has sound. Some, anyway. Okay, there's got to be more footage than that. Yeah, somebody was using a whip. I mean, a camera. I mean, a cell phone to take that. So you know, there's more data than that. Yeah, this one's supposed to be birds. I don't look like birds. That does not look like birds. Okay, what else are they hiding on this website? There's the reports. And white paper. They used to have more here. What happened to them? That's interesting. Huh. Imagery. And see, it's just these. What's his new videos? Where's the... See, we got to PR 106. Yeah, we watched that one. I think I'm going to have to go through these and look at them now and see how their system is. PR 107, PR 105. Yeah. I don't know. Too many secrets, y'all. There goes another one. I think it's hauling ass over through here. That one took off. Okay, here's this one. And it's leaving a trail, so it's leaving a heat trail. And where is it? Right about here, I think. That. I mean, honestly, to me, this looks like a missile. It has the profile of a missile. I mean, you have heat coming out of the back. This thing is flying down through here. Look at it. It's hauling ass. Now, maybe they fired at this thing and missed. I don't know. But it looks like the same object. I don't know. I don't know. And that's the Go Fast object, I think. We'll look at that one real quick.
One thing, Roger, Roger, there's some shooting things like this. Did you box moving target? No, I took an auto track. Oh, okay. Oh my gosh, dude. Wow, look at that, man.
You know, I wonder if it's some other species. Anyway, like I said, I thought I'd hop on and talk to everybody and a little bit, and while I drink my coffee and watch the news, and I want to do like an in-depth thing on this. Anyway, I'll be back. I gotta go check on the kid, go check on some other stuff. I've been on an hour. I'm gonna try not to burn myself out, but I probably will. Anyway, I'll